What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Inside Line podcast. I'm your host, Atoya, Burleson.
And I am Tia Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with Dr. Fati, Board Certified Pediatrician. We'll also be getting into our hot take this week, where we will be discussing Tim Anderson again, but on the other side. But first, Tia, what's going on?
Look, what is not going on? It is June. This school year is ending. Yes. This is another one, guys. We are recording a little bit early because a lot going on, including little Nate graduating, getting dropped off to school. So we're trying to get y'all in before things get crazy. But as of right now, which we hadn't talked about, Toya and I, Cliff has been gone for almost 2 weeks. And
pray for her, y'all. Pray.
No. It's been good. Okay. And I actually talked to Cliff about this yesterday, but from a different lens I'll talk to y'all about. But since he's been gone, I've been so productive. The house has been clean, so I feel like I don't got to stay on top of that. But the kids have been good, even though Zay got out of school early. But I've been so productive. I've been working on projects, getting stuff done, doing research and all the things. And I'm like, I don't know what it is about you being here that does not allow me to be as productive as it is when you're gone. I'm just playing.
But when you gone, I'll be about my business. That part.
Oh, well, you know what it is, because I told him, I said, I've been able to like just sit and think, right? And like, you know how mom brains are, how we are just like constantly thinking about the next thing. Okay, we got to do this, we got to do that. Oh, shoot, forgot I need to find a tutor for this. You know, it's like always something on top of the fact that you're trying to do your own thing. And like, okay, well, I'm working on this project. Oh, I forgot to reach out to this person. Let me do it. And so my brain never stops. My brain has been able to rest. I've been able to sleep. I have been productive. So I told him, I said, when you get home after you get caught up on all your stuff, we got to plan just like time where we do nothing. And like he has the space to strategize individually. I have the space to strategize individually, and then we can do so as a family, you know, because when it's anyway, so that's.
I know what you're saying. You're saying even though you're together, even being together, you still need time away for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. That self-care component, because you're right. When you're able to rest and think and you don't have to worry, it does kind of get your brain in the right space to do what you need to do. I know exactly what you're saying.
Exactly.
Man. I get it.
And honestly, so all the wives know what I mean. It's not like we love our husbands. We love spending time with our husbands and all the things, but everybody needs time apart. No, I'm just playing.
I need to miss you so I can kiss you. All right, y'all. Enough about that. Let's get into this week's hot take. All right, it is time for this week's hot take, Tia. What we got?
All right, guys, we're talking about Tim Anderson again. Okay, for just a little bit of familiarity. Y'all know what I mean. Just to remind y'all what we've been talking about. Tim is an MLB player for the Chicago White Sox. And of course, he's a great player and all the things, and that's what we know him for, but we also know him for the drama that has been taking place on social media. So last year he cheated on his wife. There were allegations that he cheated with another woman, so there was potentially a second baby. But anyway, he has one baby named Seven by this young lady who wants a lot of attention. And it appears as if every time that Bria has something going on, a birthday, a charity event, whatever it is, the lady got to get on Instagram and remind everybody that she's still messing with Tim.
Yeah.
Now, for whatever reason, Tim decided to go on the pivot. And they inquired about this situation because it's been everywhere, you know, like it's been taking up space everywhere. And the interview was interesting, to say the least. But before I give my take, Atoya, what did you think about that interview?
There's a lot that I took from this interview, and I'm gonna talk about it from like maybe a global aspect, and then kind of hone in.
Okay.
So when I say global, I just think everybody on there, everything that was going on. So the questions were asked, and I felt like Tim answered the questions, but kind of didn't answer the questions. They were very vague.
You're referring to questions about this situation.
We're talking about particularly about this situation. he answered, but he didn't. It was kind of vague. But when I talk about global, or not really global, but I guess from a group standpoint, right, with the other men there, I didn't feel like, which is, I feel like missing more on the men's side than the women. I didn't really feel like they held his feet to the fire or they held him accountable. They just kind of let him talk and ramble on, and we really never really honed in and focused in to an answer, a very clear and concise answer. Now, that could be twofold. For one, maybe Tim is still working through it. I know he's going through therapy and he's still trying to figure out his stuff on his own. I know he did mention on there that, he didn't have a father, so he didn't have that example. So maybe, although we look at him as he's a grown man, maybe in maturity level, he is still very young and he's trying to get to the point where he is mature and he can figure it out. That's one side of it. On the other side, I just don't really understand what you mean when you say you have to go find yourself. That was like, that was so confusing to me. And that can mean so many different things. So back to the point of me being very vague and kind of just going around in circles, I just really didn't understand what that meant. Maybe it's because I'm a female and we know who we are early. We know what we want. We got our goals and dreams and so on and so forth. Maybe for males, they think they know, but then they don't know, or it changes and they don't know how to deal with that. But they still want to keep their families, but I don't know what it is, but it's something there that I'm like, that go find yourself is, ooh-wee. That's like telling somebody, that you yeah, it is. But tell me your take.
So, okay. So yes, the interview was about other things, guys. So keep in mind, this was a portion of the interview.
It was a portion.
It was a portion.
Because he's he talked about his accolades as a player. He talked about all the amazing things, and we're not taking away from anything that he's done great, because he is great. Let's be clear.
Yep. So, okay. So I agree with you on the point that the other guys didn't hold him accountable, but I know why, I feel like I know they didn't hold him as accountable as let's say we were, if we were sitting down talking to him. And it's because all three of them said, we know where you, we understand where you're coming from. Because they made the comment of, some people may not know what shoes you in or whatever the case, but we all know what position you're in. So it's okay, we cheated too. So how would we want to be approached if somebody was asking us for an interview about our situations, right? Because the other guys, they haven't had to go through the cheating scandal and really the embarrassment upon their family in the way that Tim Anderson has either. So I think that's why they were trying to tiptoe and pity pat around the situation. And like Tim said during the interview, there was at one point where he didn't even want to be seen and he was uncomfortable stepping out, because I guess they were supposed to do this interview a long time ago, and he finally did it, and you could tell that he was still uncomfortable. Yeah, right, very much so. Addressing it. And so as soon as he said I'm still even uncomfortable talking about it, I was like, oh, well, they should have moved on with the question or with the next part of the interview, because the fact of the matter is, to your point, he rambled a little bit, but he really didn't say anything. We didn't even really nail down exactly what we were talking about until maybe, 7 minutes into that portion, you know what I'm saying? And so he was uncomfortable. He didn't really want to talk about it. He was still embarrassed and all the things, which is understandable. So it's almost like we shouldn't have even addressed it, because now it looks like you're not empathetic enough. You're not remorseful enough. This would have been the prime opportunity for you to say, I cheated on my wife. It was a huge mistake. Now I'm going to spend the rest of my life making it up to her, because that's who I want to be with. You know what I mean? Just reassuring her. And I don't think he ever did that.
And for me, Tia, I don't even know if that's what I needed to hear, because we all know that. I think for me, from the guys, when I say hold them accountable, I would want them to ask specific questions for him to answer, because he did not have the skills to kind of answer directly what what it was, however vague the question is. They should have just been more specific with him and really gave him an opportunity to answer certain things in a specific manner. But to your point now, when you say that, because I didn't really know all that, now maybe that does make sense, is that's why they didn't. But at least I do want to give him kudos in the sense that he did go on there, and his way of owning up may not have been
no
ours.
Kudos for that.
No, I'm saying
we ain't giving him no kudos.
No, but I'm saying in the sense that he took the step to still go on there and still address it, even though we wanted to hear more, understand it more, or like wanted him to be more specific. It is a step in the right direction of him even going out and trying, right? Before he would just hide. And that's, think about a lot of people, when something goes wrong, the first thing they want to do is hide. So for him to be like, I did this and I've been wanting to get on here and I have done great things in my life. And this small thing does not define my whole life. I am working through it right now in therapy. I do want to acknowledge that. I do, because no one's perfect. But I just wish they would have just been more specific and had a plan with them questions.
I agree with the plan with the questions, but I ain't sure I ain't giving him no kudos for coming on there. Because
Tia don't give nobody any wiggle room, okay?
No. It's not even that, because yes, people make mistakes and all the things, and like, again, we could have kept it at your experience in the MLB. I mean, like, he's a dope player in this space where it's not a lot of black guys, so he could have came on and done that and just been fine too. And to be honest, none of this is our business. So he don't owe us nothing, an explanation, an apology, or anything, whatever. But I'm just looking at it from Bria's standpoint, and that I was publicly embarrassed in front of millions and millions of people because of your actions. And the first time you do go on a platform where they're going to ask you about it, then make it right with me. At the least, it's kind of like where I'm coming from. But because they were beating around the bush, to your point with the questions, because he didn't really answer stuff, he didn't even really accept accountability in it, right? It like left room, because I'll say this, and then we gonna open it up for the people. This man said, I was going through things in my life, and I felt lonely, I felt whatever, and people weren't really doing something. And then one of the hosts from the Pivot podcast asked him what he meant about it. He goes, well, I'm not really in the business of tearing people down. I'm in the business of building people up. So I won't comment on that. But I just wasn't in a good, you know what I mean? So it left room for you to be like, okay, well, like, was it issues with you and Bria? Was it issues with a recent passing of somebody? Like, what was it left too much ambiguity.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm saying. Yeah, I promise I know how to spell the word, but sometimes I trigger. But you know ambiguity. What I mean? So that's more so what I'm coming. You knew exactly what I meant.
I knew what
promise
you said,
y'all,
friend.
I went to school. I have a degree. I know how to spell it. But you know what I'm saying? Just like, I'm looking at, I will forever be looking at this from the lens of Bria.
Yeah, absolutely.
And why I can be empathetic and understand and all the things, like I can, of course, I can empathize with Tim and all the things, but I will forever look at this through the lens of Bria, and this shit was embarrassing.
It was, but I salute them for working through it, for working through it, publicly and privately on both ends, and for her wanting to keep her family together and see past, these mistakes and look at the bigger picture down the road. Like, I salute that. I think more people, when you're judged in the world of social media, that first thing they're gonna be like, it's over, leave him, he ain't this. That's easy for you to say. You don't have a whole family. You don't have all, 10 plus years or however many years you've invested, in this marriage. So on your side, of course you think that, but for her, as a female, I understand and I respect what she's doing. And I pray that they work through it and come out on the other side and, later when he tells his story to be a lot more clear, and it'll just be a small little boop in the road and they'll just be smooth sailing. So I wish the best for them, but y'all let us know what y'all think. I don't know if y'all have even seen him speak on the Pivot. Let us know what y'all think about him, and y'all let us know what y'all think about the questions that were asked. Let us know, because us women, we gonna be like, we need more clarity on that, please. Can you explain when you said, us women?
Or, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Can you answer this? Later.
Exactly. Okay, y'all, that's it for this week's Hot Take. Coming up next, our chat with Dr. Fati. On the show today, we have a woman who won the internet over with her wedding freestyle, giving her the moniker, the Rapping Bride. She has been featured on outlets such as Fox, BET, and Essence, to name a few. And she is a board-certified pediatrician focused on demystifying pediatrics. Please welcome Dr. Fati to the show. How are you?
Y'all. I'm good. How are you?
We're so good. We're excited to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Of course. I'm excited too. I'm super excited that you guys invited me to be on here because I've really wanted to be a part of it.
Oh, yay. That's so great to hear.
All right. So I met Dr. Fati in Detroit when Cliff was playing, but she was there doing her residency. So I guess I think I said it before we started recording, but I feel like we have been in touch the entire time, but we haven't. But that's kind of like what social media does to you. It makes you think, oh, yeah, she just got engaged, or yeah, she just got married. So it's been cool to reconnect.
Yes, it has.
There's so much to talk about because I think about how multidimensional you are. Oftentimes, doctors are placed in this stereotypical box of, being a certain way. And you are literally the polar opposite of what we typically think of as a doctor because there's just so many dimensions to you. Do you feel like being on social media is what gave you this platform to showcase your personality, all these different sides to who you are?
Absolutely. And it took a lot of courage actually to get on social media, like you say, because everybody puts you in a box and everybody expects you to be like super professional and like, you can't say this, you can't do that. And, ultimately, I'm board certified, so I do have to report to the Texas Medical Board. And so I have to protect my license and what I do. But I just wanted to, be open and be free. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, yes, I'm a doctor, but I'm myself too. And I wanted to show other people like, hey, I don't have to be put in this box. I can, do other things and I can just be myself. And I wanted people to see that.
Okay, so you have to talk about what you did and how, because there may be people that don't know. So you have to talk about what you did and like how it caught on, because I think it's the dopest thing ever. Because I didn't even know. I was like, wait, what? So go ahead and talk about it.
All right. So you're talking about the viral moment, the wedding freestyle.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm from Houston, Texas. And, we have like the Screw culture. I don't know if you guys are familiar with DJ Screw.
Oh, yeah.
And so, June 27th is, we call it a Houston holiday. And so, when we actually were supposed to get married in 2020, but of course, because of COVID, we had to push the wedding back. So whenever we were picking the dates, it just ended up happening that, our wedding fell on June 27th.
That's everything.
And so my husband, he's a musician too. He raps, and he was like, you know what? He was like, because we had been through so much, we had to push the wedding back and everything. And he was like, I think, for June 27th, he was like, I think we should, freestyle. I think we should, perform at the wedding. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. That's dope. And so, we did it. And, of course, all of our wedding guests and everybody was so surprised, so excited. But we did not expect that it was going to go viral the way it did. It was just crazy. So my husband posted it on Instagram first. And so when he posted it, because I don't even think, I think I had an Instagram at that point, but it was I had only a couple of friends on Instagram. And so my husband posted it on Instagram, and a couple of local Houston, pages had caught a whiff of it. And they started posting it. But then next thing I'm trying to think, what was the first? I think it was Fashion Bomb Daily. That was the first big page that posted my video. And so when they posted the video, it just went crazy from there. So it was them. And then next thing I know, people were calling me. They were like, you on the Shade Room? You on the Neighborhood Talk? You on here? And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And Tia knows me, I'm shy, I'm baseline shy. So I was just oh my God, millions of people just saw my wedding video. And this is crazy. So yeah, that's how it came to be.
Okay, so you talk about being shy, but you obviously have... You've rapped before. This isn't something that came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So like, I'm not shy like around my like close friends and family. You know,
Okay,
I
that's
actually
fair.
grew up like singing.
Okay.
So like I grew up singing like just around my family and stuff, and they'd be like, you know, sing for us, and I'm like, no, I don't really like to do it. And then in Houston, like seriously, like so many women like rap and freestyle out here.
Yeah.
Like it's just like something that we do. It's part of the culture, and so you know, I just always did it like at parties and you know, things like that. And so I was comfortable doing it around like my core people, but it
Yeah.
wasn't something that I was planning to do for the masses.
Okay, that's fair. That is fair. So you talk about you've had this musical background growing up, right? So when we talk about multidimensional, you not only freestyle, but you also can sing, which is amazing. And at some point, you decided to go into the medical field. Let's back up and talk about when you left high school and went to college. Did you already know in your mind you were going to go into the medical field, or did something click later?
I always knew that I did
Okay.
want to go into the medical field. And so I went to 2 HBCUs. I started off at Xavier in New Orleans, which is, you know, it's a really good HBCU for people who do want to go into the medical field. They have like a pharmacy school. And a lot of people there get accepted into medical school. But then I went through Hurricane Katrina when I was there. So I relocated. Yes. And so from Xavier, then I ended up going to Prairie View out here in Texas, Prairie View, Texas, and I finished there. So I did have...
I know all about Prairie View. That's where my sister graduated from.
Oh, yay!
She sure did.
Yeah. So I graduated from Prairie View, and I was a biology pre-med major throughout college.
And so you've always known like science, biology, medical. That's just been your thing. That's like...
Yes, I wanted to be a surgeon. Like growing up, like I was obsessed with like watching like the shows with like the OB-GYNs, like delivering babies and doing C-sections and things like that. And I thought I was going to be a surgeon. That's what I really wanted to do. But once I got into medical school and I did my rotations and stuff, I was like, I don't think that this lifestyle is going to be for me. I don't think I really like it as much as I thought I would. But then when I did my pediatrics rotation, I fell in love with it. And then that's how I ended up being a pediatrician.
I love that. Okay, so we got to talk about the medical field because it ain't for the faint of heart, y'all. We know it's difficult. What advice would you give any young girls that are, you know, interested in going into the medical field? Because I know we hear, you know, the accolades, but there's always the stuff behind there that we don't typically hear. So
Absolutely. So yeah, working in the medical field, it's hard and it's tough, but it's worth it. You have to be so confident in yourself, and you have to be sure that this is what you want to go into, because, you know, you will have to sacrifice a lot of things to be here. You know, I'm originally from Houston. You know, I had to go to Detroit to do my residency there. You know, you don't always get to go to your first choice of where you do your residency and things like that. You know, I had to give up birthday parties, you know, weddings, you know, sometimes even funerals, just because, you know, you're just so busy, you're studying, you're working. But
how
at
many
the
hours
end,
a day? How many hours a day did you put in?
ooh, residency was really hard. Like sometimes we would be on call for like up to 30 hours at a time, like overnight. So like I'll get to the hospital like 6 o'clock in the morning and wouldn't leave until like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock the next morning.
That's
on call.
insane.
So the advice that I would give young girls is like, just be confident. Be confident of yourself. You can do it. In this world, you can do anything that you want to do. Trust in God also, number one. And then make sure that you also have a good support system, because through your journey, there will be ups, there will be down. But you just need your family and your support system to help lift you up for those down moments.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like being a Black female doctor in the space.
Ooh, yeah. Being a Black female doctor is it's tough. I actually made a video and I posted it on my Instagram about you know, microaggressions about being a Black woman in medicine. And so a lot of times, even to this day, people don't think I'm the doctor. People will think I'm the nurse. People will think I'm the medical assistant. And this is even with introducing myself, like, hi, I'm doctor, you know, so and so. And still some people don't believe it, so there are a lot of microaggressions in the medical field, because there's not a lot of us out here.
Yeah.
And so like growing up, I don't think I ever saw like a Black female doctor until I was like maybe in college. And so that's another reason why I do like being on social media now, because you have that platform. So you can see there's like, hey, we out here,
Yeah.
It might be hard to find us some places, but we out here.
What is your favorite thing about working with like children and family? Because you did say when you did your rotations, you knew this is what I wanted to do. What was it about it that you enjoyed?
Oh, the kids, they just make everything like so much better. They're innocent. It's never their fault, not a lot of arguing. Sometimes the parents, y'all are parents, sometimes y'all are hard to deal with. That's where the issue comes in with the parents. But the kids are just so amazing and they're so resilient. So for the most part, I don't have to deal with a lot of like chronic end of life issues with children, which is a good part.
So, and I don't know if you already said this, are you in the family clinic or are you working in the hospital?
I do both. So I do urgent care and ER from time to time. Yeah, so I like fast pace, acute, because like doing my residency in Detroit, like that's the dirty D. Like y'all already know, like doing my residency in Detroit, like it was wild. So I just like being on top of my feet. I love ER medicine. I love acute medicine. So I think right now, as I'm getting older, I think I like urgent care a little bit better because it's like, you have some emergency, but it's not as wild as being in the emergency room itself.
Mm-hmm. A little more, I say calm, but not so much.
Yes.
Okay, so I watch the shows like I love like House. I used to watch all these crazy shows, and you always hear about like this one crazy thing that happened. They're trying to figure out what's going on. I just need to know one crazy story that you've endured that you feel comfortable sharing with everyone. And you're like, wow.
Or I guess that you can share.
That you can share.
A crazy case that I've had.
Yeah, just, when you watch those shows, I'm like, I always thought like, how do you get through that? Or how did you come up with that? Or did you realize, because you can look at a patient, think it's one thing, it turns out being something completely different.
Oh yeah, this is actually a case that we had in Detroit, and it's kind of sad actually. But we had a child that came in, and she was vomiting, and we couldn't really figure out, why she was vomiting. So she was admitted in the hospital because of all the vomiting that she had, she was dehydrated, and so. As we were like rounding and, like when you're in residency, you kind of like go in as a team and do your rounds and things like that. And, we went in that we did like another physical exam. And then we noticed that the child had like some bruising, just like in some odd places. Like we wouldn't expect to see bruises. And I mean, toddlers, you see the bruises, the elbows, the arms, the shins. Those are just common places for toddlers to have bruises. But the bruises were not in a place that we would expect. So we started thinking like, hey, this is like maybe like a sign of abuse. This is like a sign of, non-accidental trauma, what we call it. And so sure enough, we started to work it up and, we ended up doing an MRI of the baby's head and it showed that this baby had been being abused. And so the vomiting was from like the increased pressure in her head from,
like
being beaten and things like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was really, really sad. And so it was just so unexpected, because we were like, she's dehydrated. She's coming in here for this vomiting. And, if it wasn't for like that repeat, physical exam and if we didn't notice that bruising, like that's how that whole workup came about.
Yeah, that is sad. But at the same time, you kind of might have saved her life, his or her life, in the sense of like being able to report that, the child being there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I got a question because especially this case you just told us about, you have a big heart and you have to have like a strong passion for being in this space, right? But how do you separate it to a point where you don't take home some of those more traumatic experiences like that?
It is tough. it is tough. Like, I would say in residency, it's like the hardest part of it because you do all of these rotations and you go through so many hard departments. So, you get to work with cancer patients, you get to work with patients who deal with abuse. And so you have to build really, really tough skin. I mean, there was plenty of days that I cried, during my rotations and residency. And it's tough. But as you go through so many cases, you just kind of have to learn how to, separate it. But I am a huge advocate for children. So, even being out, and now practicing medicine by myself, I have to make sure that I'm always doing what's best for my patient. And sometimes, you do get those heartbreaking cases, and it's sad. And you just sometimes it makes you realize how blessed you are.
Yeah.
It really does make you realize how blessed you are. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people out here dealing with a lot of stuff. There's some people, who are barely, making it by with their kids, trying to figure out how they're going to eat, and let alone afford medications or get in medical care. So it really does make you appreciate what you have, and even more appreciative that I'm able to help people in what I do.
I think about a lot of the people that will be listening, our listeners, and what they may know or may not know. What do you think is absolutely essential information about kids' health that you wish all parents are made aware of? Is there something in particular?
Accidents. So, kids are very resilient as far as when they get sick, with colds, viruses, things like that. But, for the most part, accidents are a huge cause of pediatric death. So right now, going into the summer, pool safety. Yeah. Pool safety is super important. I mean, I just, the number of people think it'll never happen to you. You don't know what will happen to you.
Yep.
So true.
You don't know what will happen to you. It's way more common than people think, just because a couple of cases, might be on the news, you hear about a child drowning. It's way more common than people think. So I think, pool safety is definitely a big one. Getting your kids in some swimming lessons, always keeping your eyes on the children 24/7 whenever they're swimming, because it's way more common than people think. So drownings.
Yeah. It's interesting. There was a guy that used to play for the Seahawks. And I don't know if you remember Sean Atoya was back in North Carolina, and his mom had the kids and took her eye off the baby for 1 second. The baby, they found him in the pool. They were able to resuscitate him, but he was never the same. And he actually ended up passing away 2 months ago. And I want to say that accident first happened maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So yes, to our point is even if your kid is scared of the water, whatever, you better do ISR or something, because it is out of control.
It's way more. I think there was another case recently. I think
there was a player,
another athlete
in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay, I want to switch gears a little bit, and chat about this. So when we were in Detroit, I thought it was super dope that you were still doing residency, pursuing your career and things like that. And it actually motivated me to oh no, I can still do my thing, still support and do my thing. Right. And I don't think I ever told you that, because I was oh hell, I'm getting a job. I'm going back into my career because you worked so hard for that. When you think about, because I'll still consider you a newlywed, you have a demanding career. Have you thought about, or have you experienced any changes just with trying to be an amazing wife, but still be dope in your career? Even a thought of expanding your family. How do you think you can handle and manage it?
Man, it is hard. It is kind of being married, it's different, and you learn so much more about each other, right? I love my husband. He is super supportive. It's just been interesting, kind of learning what he likes, what I like, what I don't like, what he don't like. Yeah. But it's fun. Right now, we don't have any children yet. We do hope to one day have children. And I think that once I do have children, I think I'm going to go part-time. because I just don't see how, you can have kids and be a wife and, be like full-time physician. So I think that I would cut back whenever I have kids.
Yeah.
Well, I know you just say you still learning new stuff. Yeah. And I know you say you still learning new stuff about your husband. It does not stop. Both of y'all keep continuing, like evolving and becoming different people. So it really is like relearning each other.
Yes.
Very often.
And not necessarily relearning, but I think because of all the different things that happen in your lives, right? Like when it comes to even having kids, like to your point, you're like, yeah, I've done all of these things and I've worked, but I know that at some point I'm going to have to cut back. Like you're very realistic in that. And then when you have those kids, then you start thinking differently about certain things. So I think we're just evolving being. It's just part of, being who we are and just accepting that change is inevitable.
That's right. That's
It
right.
is.
Change is inevitable. And whenever I do have kids, I will be coming to y'all. So get prepared for that. I'm going to need all the tips and tricks.
Listen,
Look, we got you.
I'm going to tell you, mine is going to be out the
these
door,
different
which
phases.
is crazy. But I want to talk about you and your husband. And I need to know, who is the better rapper?
I would say he is.
Because
I think we have different style. We have different styles. So
Okay.
like he's more of like, he's like a real hip hop head, like he, yeah, he's better. Me, I'm just Houston, like freestyle down south, like, yeah, I would say he's the better rapper. I give him that. I think he was feeling a certain type of way because people was like, man, I've been rapping forever, and you go viral now. Everybody looking at you like you the rapper. So I'm gonna give him his flowers. It's him. He is the better rapper.
He is going to save this clip. Okay.
Yes. He gonna replay it. Remember what you said right here on this day? No, I think it's dope that you guys have that in common, right? We all need those commonalities in our marriage and things that we do together and enjoy together. What would you say is something outside of rapping that you guys enjoy, that you've kind of learned to, as newlyweds, build on together?
Traveling. We both love traveling a lot. COVID, again, slowed that down for a little bit, but now we are, trying to work back up on traveling. So we're actually going to be traveling in a few weeks for our 2nd year anniversary. So we're going to go to Belize.
Belize. Yeah. That's on my list. Okay, you got to let me know. You got to let me know all about it. I look forward to hearing the stories.
I will let you know. Yes. So we definitely both love traveling together.
Okay. So before we get into our game, I got one last question. When you think back, and I think this question may be a little bit easier for someone that has an intense career like being a physician, but when you think back to where you thought you would be at this age, when you were like 18, 19, 20, are you where you thought you would be?
Yes and no. So some parts yes, some parts no. So I thought that by now, I would have had a couple of kids. I thought I was going to get married earlier than what, I got married. But, life happens. Right. But I did always envision myself being a doctor, and I'm here and I'm doing it and I'm practicing medicine. So
You're killing it.
And I wouldn't change it because, hey, everything happens on God's time. So I got married to the right man at the right time, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
Would you say you experienced, well, let me rewind. I feel like I went through I'm going to be married by 25, kids by 27, and it didn't. I had kids at 25. It happened when it needed to happen, right? And it's interesting. Right. I was listening to a podcast just about women. It was a few ladies. One lady was turning 30, another 35, and one turning 40. And each one of them, they've had, of course, walked different paths or whatever. But all three of them were sad about the age they were getting ready to turn, only because they set, to your point, like, I thought I would be doing this at this age, this at that, whatever, and kind of like got caught there. Would you say, I know you said now you feel like everything happened on God's timing, but would you say you felt a little bit of that when things weren't necessarily happening when you thought they were?
Yeah, I did. I think when I turned 30, I think that's when I felt it like the hardest. Like I was like, because I had met my husband by then, but we weren't dating at that time. But, I had turned 30 and I was like, man, like, I thought I would be married by now. I thought I would have kids by now. I definitely felt that when I hit 30. Yeah.
And how'd you move through it?
I started going out and having fun.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
You know what? Like, I mean, shoot, like it is what it is. And I just started hitting the Houston streets and was having fun, enjoying my life. And hey, met my husband and just, life moved on.
Y'all hear that? Enjoy your own life. I am so big about enjoying life, doing things for you, loving on you. What would you say is your biggest self-care practice for you?
You know what? I just started getting into acupuncture.
Ooh.
Have y'all tried that?
You like a little pain during self-care.
Like it is, it's so like shockingly, like it's such a huge like stress relief for me.
Okay.
So I'm into acupuncture and massages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got to get my massages for sure.
Yeah,
I tried acupuncture one time and it wasn't terrible, but just somebody sticking me. I mean, it's not the same as needles, but it kind of is. And it's just like, I just really couldn't relax. And I'll never forget this, y'all. I sat down in the car. I was leaving. I was like, I don't know if I like that. I just couldn't really quite figure it out. And my friend's like, you have to give it a few tries. So, yeah. I do want to try it again because you said it. My friend, she swears by it. So I need to find somebody better.
It's good. Yeah.
Okay. I got to find a better person. Okay, let's play a game.
Okay.
All right. This game is called the 2-minute drill. And we're just going to ask you this or that questions or just a fill in the blank. It's super easy. It's not, listen, I know you're not stressed out because you've done medical school. So this will be easy for you.
Okay.
All right. 2-minute drill starts now. Misunderstood or unappreciated?
I'd rather be misunderstood.
Would you rather have people admire you for your good deeds or respect you for your power?
Good deeds.
Music career or career in the medical field?
Man, it depends on the day. It depends on the day. I've been having some good shifts lately, so I'm going to say medical field.
Love.
What are you most grateful for?
My family.
Do you prefer team outings or do you prefer virtual meetings?
Team outings. Let's get this virtual stuff done with.
Look, okay. Would you rather your camera roll go public or your browse history go public?
Browse history.
She's like, ain't no telling what's in that camera roll.
Tell me your thoughts on artificial intelligence or AI. Do you think it's scary? Do you think it's amazing or both?
I think it's both. I think it's amazing at like what technology can do, but it's scary because I'm like, a lot of people ain't about to have a job here soon.
Yeah.
Because it can do so much. Yeah.
Okay. What impresses you?
People with good character.
Amen and amen. What, if anything, is too serious to be joked about?
Mental health.
That's right. Okay. Last question. What is next for you?
What is next for me? Next for me is continue to like build up my brand. So working on that, getting more, doing more of like medical teaching and stuff like that on platforms.
Yeah.
And then hopefully one day my husband and I starting our family.
Yes, I love it.
We love your platform. We love what you're doing. If people want to get a hold of you, to learn more, to know more, how do they get a hold of you?
So you can follow me on Instagram or on TikTok. My handle is at Dr. Fati MD. So DrFatiMD. I'm falling in love with TikTok, y'all. Like TikTok is where it's at.
Yeah. I'm gonna get some tutorials this summer.
TikTok is very entertaining, and it's very like, I'm like, yeah, TikTok is where it's at now.
Yeah.
So y'all can find me on TikTok and Instagram, but maybe y'all be finding me on TikTok a little bit more now.
Okay, y'all heard her. TikTok, that's where it's at. We old though, I be on Instagram, but I tried TikTok. I can feel it. Like I do like to go on there and swipe, but it's so much work to do stuff on TikTok. It's a lot of work. I sound old. Let me stop aging myself. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for coming on. It's amazing how this all started in the D, and here we are full circle in another part of our lives. But keep entertaining us, keep teaching us, and we thank you for your time here on Inside Lines.
Thank you, ladies. I truly enjoyed my time.
All right, I really enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Fati.
Yes. That was my boo when we were in Detroit. And like I said, doing the thing, I just thought it was so dope that she was up there still pursuing her career and all the things. And it was very motivating. It was like, remember how I always say, I'm thinking like women up here not really doing anything. And really, you got attorneys, you got people with master's degrees, you got doctors, like the whole gamut. So I'm so glad she was able to join us.
I agree. And what you realize is everything's ebbs and flows. Like no season lasts forever. So I'm glad that she was able to keep going and do her thing. And now she's married and gonna move on to the next chapter. So thank you so much for joining us. We really enjoyed it. And if you guys have any questions, y'all, reach out to her.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's the show for the latest on the Inside Lines podcast. Make sure to follow us on @InsideLINES podcast on both Instagram and Facebook.
Be sure if you got questions, comments, you got guests y'all want us to interview or questions for past guests, leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/InsideLines.
Until next time. I can't stop laughing. I'm sorry, Brian.
If y'all knew what took place during this episode, listen.
I'm so sorry. Okay, let me hear it before I mess up. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Until next time, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all soon.